You were born into a story that was already being written before you arrived. The ink was still wet on the pages the moment you opened your eyes and inhaled your first breath. The characters were already cast. The lines were rehearsed. The rules of the world were whispered into your subconscious long before you had the words to question them. And from that very moment, you began to forget. There is a silence so ancient, so profound, that it echoes behind the constant hum of daily life. It's the silence of your true nature, muffled beneath layers of language, expectation, symbols, and conditioning. The moment you entered this world, a subtle process began, like a sculptor working on a blank stone, not with chisel and hammer, but with television screens, lullabies, textbooks, traditions, and the tone of voices that spoke to you not as you were, but as who you were expected to become. You see, this wasn't a malevolent act. It was more like a ritual, an inheritance of forgetting passed down through generations. The ones who shaped you had been shaped themselves. They did not always know they were carving you into someone else's image, but the pattern persists. You were taught how to sit, how to speak, how to believe. You were shown what to fear, what to chase, what to worship. Somewhere along the way, a soul, limitless, luminous, eternal, became convinced it was a label, a job, a nationality, a role. And so the programming began. This programming wasn't done with wires and screens alone, though those played their part. It ran deeper, into the myths you were told as facts, the systems that masqueraded as normality, the boundaries of thought itself. Your imagination, once a gateway to other dimensions, was trimmed and trained to serve only what could be measured. You learned to trade your wonder for certainty, your intuition for logic, your knowing for noise. But the strangest part of it all is that the cage was made of mirrors, each reflection showing you who you were supposed to be, never who you truly are. This programming didn't feel like programming. It felt like life. It felt like family. It felt like school, like love, like belonging. And so you didn't question it. You couldn't. It wrapped around your mind like warm water in a bath, undetected until it had seeped into every thought, every belief, every choice. They didn't need to lock you in chains. They only needed to convince you that you were the chains. Now, if this feels heavy, if it stirs discomfort or resistance within you, pause for a moment. That very reaction is a thread, a signal from your deeper self, reminding you that something beneath the surface remembers. There is something ancient in you, something wild and radiant that has not forgotten. That self still speaks, not in language, but in symbols, in dreams, in the strange pull you feel when the stars are too bright, or the silence is too deep. That self has waited patiently for your return. This isn't just about conspiracy or manipulation. It's not about blame. It's about awakening. Because once you see the architecture of the matrix you were born into, you realize it was never your true home. It was a stage, a lesson, a labyrinth meant not to imprison you, but to awaken you through the very act of escaping. Some will hear this and feel fear. Others will feel fire. Some will walk away and forget. Others will feel something shift. Subtle, but irreversible. This is for those who feel the shift. This is for the ones who, even in the depth of the illusion, feel the pulse of something more. For those who suspect there is a script they've been following, but have never truly read. This is for you, the rememberers, the seekers, the ones who are starting to ask, what if everything I was told about who I am was the exact opposite of the truth? Because here's the secret they never told you. You were not born to be programmed. You were born to reprogram reality itself. The hidden architecture of the illusion. To understand the nature of the programming you inherited, you must first dissolve the illusion that this world is what it seems. This isn't about rejecting reality. It's about seeing through its scaffolding, peeling back the layers until the deeper design is exposed. The truth is not hidden from you maliciously. It is hidden within you, encrypted in your consciousness like a dormant code waiting to be activated by awareness. The first and most insidious illusion is that you are your identity. Name, gender, nationality, occupation, beliefs, all useful masks, but masks nonetheless. You are not the mask. You are the light that shines through it. The programming convinces you otherwise. It teaches you to tie your value to what others see, to cling to the reflection rather than the source of the reflection. And in doing so, it renders you programmable, a walking echo of societal expectation. But your soul is not programmable. It is too vast, too ancient, too wild. So instead, the game is to keep your awareness locked in the body-mind complex, where sensation and thought become the jailers. You are taught to fear the silence that would allow you to hear your true voice, to fear stillness, where the artificial self dissolves. You are taught to be busy, distracted, entertained, always moving, because when you stop, you might remember. Another theme at the heart of this illusion is the lie of separation. The idea that you are isolated, a lone being in a vast and indifferent universe. But the mystics, sages, and ancient initiates all whisper the same truth. There is no separation. You are not just part of the universe, you are the universe, experiencing itself from one of infinite vantage points. Consciousness is not something you have, it is what you are. You do not exist in reality, reality unfolds within you. This is the great reversal, the core paradox, and it terrifies those who cling to the illusion of control. Because once you awaken to this truth, the game changes. You realize that your thoughts shape matter, your beliefs shape experience, and your energy, your vibration, is not just passive but directive. You are not a passive observer in this simulation. You are a participant, creator, dreaming the dream and forgetting you're the dreamer. Ancient traditions knew this. The Hermetics called it the All. The Vedas called it Brahman. The Gnostics spoke of the divine spark, buried in flesh but never extinguished. The Egyptians encoded it in geometry. The alchemists mapped it in symbols and metaphor. And all of them pointed to the same sacred truth, that reality is layered, and the physical world is merely the outermost shell, a veil. This is not a fantasy. It is a forgotten science, a metaphysical technology that our ancestors used to ascend, transform, and liberate their consciousness. The ancients didn't just revere symbols. They lived through them. They didn't worship the stars. They used them as coordinates for inner expansion. And they didn't see death as an ending. They saw it as an awakening from a denser dream. But you've been trained to ignore all this, to call it myth, superstition, pseudoscience, to dismiss the intuitive and sacred as irrational. Why? Because once you understand the power of these truths, you no longer need permission. You no longer obey the simulation. You become its master. This is why the programming is so relentless. It must keep you chasing goals, titles, achievements, things that hook you into the material world and distract you from the inner revolution. It must keep you looking outward, when the true liberation is inward. The more you attach to the illusion, the more the real you dims behind the veil, until eventually you forget there was ever more. But cracks are forming. Synchronicities, déjà vu, dreams that feel more real than waking life. A growing sense that time is not linear, that something is watching, guiding. These are not glitches. They are signals, clues, invitations. The simulation isn't perfect because it's not meant to be. It's designed to be broken by those brave enough to question its walls. And the most powerful key you hold is awareness. Pure, unfiltered awareness. Not thought, not emotion, awareness. The witness behind it all. Once you locate it, once you begin to operate from that still point beyond form, the code of the matrix begins to rewrite itself around you. You no longer play the role. You watch the role. And in watching, you gain the ability to re-script it. This is not just philosophy. It is energetic law. Consciousness generates form. Belief modulates frequency. and frequency collapses into reality. This is the true science, the one ancient temples encoded in stone, the one mystics transmitted in whispers, the one that was buried beneath centuries of dogma, distraction, and fear. You were programmed, yes, but you were also given a hidden override. It is activated not through rebellion or reaction, but through remembering who you were before the mask, before the story, before the world told you what you were supposed to be. Because beneath the illusion of the body, beyond the script of the mind, you are already free. The sacred clues hidden in plain sight. There is a language older than words, one that speaks not to the intellect, but to the soul. It is the language of symbol, of dream, of myth, a universal lexicon encoded in the stars, in sacred geometry, in the whisper of trees and the structure of atoms. The simulation we call reality is saturated with these signs, and yet, most pass by them unaware, eyes clouded by surface appearances, unaware that the world is speaking to them in riddles that long to be unraveled. Imagine this. You are walking through a vast, ancient forest. The trees stretch endlessly in every direction, forming a canopy that dims the light. At first, it seems random, a chaos of branches and undergrowth. But then, you begin to notice patterns. The spiral of a fern mirrors the spiral of your own DNA. The path you walk begins to curve in the shape of a labyrinth. The rhythm of the birds above echoes a forgotten chant you once heard in a dream. You realize you're not in a forest, you're in a story, one written in a language your soul remembers, but your mind forgot. This is how symbols work. They are maps disguised as metaphors, triggers encoded into the simulation to awaken memory, real memory. Not of this life, but of your essence, of your nature before incarnation. Let us take one such symbol, one that appears across cultures, epochs, and dimensions, the Ouroboros, the serpent swallowing its own tail. To the untrained eye, it's a curious image. To the awakened, it's a revelation. It is the cycle of life and death, the feedback loop of thought and experience. The simulation itself, always returning, always consuming, until one dares to step outside its circle. But look closer, and the Ouroboros reveals more. It is not just a cycle, it is a portal. The snake's body twists into a sacred geometry, resembling the infinity loop, the lemniscate, the figure eight of consciousness folding in on itself. It tells you, you are trapped only because you believe in linearity. In truth, you are outside time, looking in. Then, there is the labyrinth, another profound archetype. Found in the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur, etched into the floor of ancient cathedrals, whispered in dreams. Unlike a maze, which is designed to confuse, a labyrinth has only one path. No dead ends, no wrong turns. The journey winds and folds, sometimes feeling aimless, but always leading to the center. And what lies at the center? The self. Not the small self, the ego, but the cosmic self, the true you. The labyrinth is the soul's blueprint for awakening within the simulation. Every twist in your life, every loss, heartbreak, and mystery has been a turn toward the center. And what of the eye? The all-seeing eye atop the pyramid, the eye of Horus, the pineal gland's symbolic twin. This is perhaps the most misused and misunderstood of all symbols. While it has been hijacked by institutions of power, its origin is deeply sacred. It is the witness, the undying awareness behind the roles, watching the play unfold. In many esoteric traditions, the pineal gland is seen as the seat of the soul, the gateway through which we perceive higher dimensions. The third eye doesn't grant you psychic powers. It restores your true vision, allowing you to see beyond the program and into the field of pure potential. These symbols are not accidental. They were seeded across history like breadcrumbs, carved into stone, encoded into scripture, sung in chants, hidden in architecture, and even disguised in modern media. Why? Because those who remembered their origin knew they would forget again. And so, They left messages for themselves across time, like cosmic time capsules, waiting for the right frequency of consciousness to unlock them. That frequency is now. Even the act of waking up has been symbolized across millennia. Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree, Christ in the tomb, Neo in the Matrix. Each of these are not stories of external salvation. They are maps of internal realization. Buddha didn't escape the world. He pierced its illusion. Jesus didn't die for sin. He died to illusion and rose in truth. Neo didn't fight the Matrix. He became aware of it, and in doing so, transcended it. Every sacred story is your story. The simulation uses repetition to lull you into forgetting. The soul uses pattern to help you remember. One enslaves, the other awakens. And it is only by paying attention to the recurring symbols, those strange coincidences, the dreams that feel more real than your waking life, the myths that seem to stir something ancient within you, that the bridge between realms is revealed. You see, symbols are not just meanings. They are portals. They open when you feel them, not when you analyze them. That's why logic alone can't free you. It's intuition, presence, and resonance that cracks the code. The world speaks in vibrations, and the symbolic realm is its highest frequency. So when you dream of falling, you are being reminded that you already fell, from unity into duality. When you feel like you're being watched, perhaps you're remembering that you are the watcher. When you see the same numbers, symbols, or patterns over and over again, it's not random. It's the matrix echoing your awakening, like a reflection responding to your gaze. We are not meant to decode every symbol with the mind. We are meant to become the symbol, to live it, to embody the ancient map drawn not on paper, but on the living field of existence. You are not just reading the map out of the simulation. You are the map, folded into flesh and forgetting, waiting to unfold again into remembrance. How to navigate the simulation once you've awakened. Realization without integration is just another illusion. You've begun to remember, glimpsed the scaffolding behind the veil, heard the symbols speak, felt the stirrings of a deeper reality. But now comes the most crucial part of the journey, bringing the sacred into the ordinary, the mystical into the mundane. Because the true purpose of awakening is not to escape reality, it's to rewire it from the inside out. And it begins with attention. The currency of this simulation isn't money, it's not time, it's attention. What you pay attention to grows. It forms the waveform of possibility into the particles of your lived experience. The system knows this. That's why your attention is constantly being hijacked by devices, drama, fear, comparison, and noise. To reclaim your reality, you must reclaim your attention. This is the first act of spiritual rebellion, to choose what you focus on. Try this. Withdraw your awareness from the endless scroll, the false urgency, the synthetic emotions. Breathe, listen, feel. You'll notice something miraculous. The simulation softens, the static clears, synchronicity increases. What you once called coincidence becomes conscious design. Why? Because the more present you are, the more pliable the code becomes. Next, cultivate inner stillness. Not just for peace, but for power. The simulation is like a mirror. It doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your frequency. And your frequency is tuned in silence. Meditation, breathwork, contemplative solitude. These aren't just wellness hacks. They are technologies of soul realignment. Tools to realign your inner field with the cosmic blueprint. The most advanced beings don't manipulate the outer world. They emanate a reality from within. Remember, you don't fight the matrix. You transcend its frequency. You also need to become intimate with your own energetic field, your aura, your chakras, your emotional body. These are not metaphors. They are as real as your skin. But you were never taught to sense them. This is where ancient practices like Qigong, Kundalini Yoga, or sacred movement come in. These disciplines were never about physical health alone. They were training grounds for navigating multidimensional existence. Because when your field is coherent, you become sovereign, protected, magnetic. This leads to another truth. Reality organizes around clarity. The clearer you are on your vibration, your intention, your alignment, the more your external world begins to mirror it. People fall away, new paths emerge, what once felt impossible begins to bend in your favor. You don't manifest from desperation. You transmit from wholeness. And in doing so, you stop reacting to reality and start co-creating it. But be warned, as you integrate, the simulation will test you. You'll feel alone. You'll be tempted to forget. You'll question if any of it was real. That's because the system is designed to keep looping you back into comfort zones, old patterns, unintegrated shadows. These tests aren't punishments, they're refinements, opportunities to embody your awakening in real time. And this is where sacred discipline comes in. Not rigidity, not dogma, but the kind of daily devotion that keeps your vibration sovereign. Morning rituals, sacred space, conscious eating, mindful technology use, gratitude practices, community with others on the path, all of these are bricks in the foundation of a reality you're no longer merely surviving, but sculpting. Integration also means honoring the body as a vessel, not a prison. This body is not your enemy, it is your alchemical temple. Every emotion, illness, and impulse is data, a message from the subconscious. When you stop numbing it and start listening to it, it becomes a sacred feedback mechanism, helping you tune deeper into source. Your body is not the blockage. Your disconnection from the body is. And then there's service. Once you begin to walk outside the simulation's rules, it's easy to get trapped in spiritual narcissism, hoarding insight, escaping into bliss, avoiding the suffering of the world. But remember, you didn't awaken just for you. You are a node in a living network, a torchbearer for others still lost in the illusion. Your presence, your vibration is medicine. So write, speak, create, heal, share your knowing, not as dogma, but as invitation, not as savior, but as mirror. You don't have to convince anyone, just become the frequency, and those meant to awaken will find you. Because your integration creates a ripple across the entire grid of collective consciousness. That's the paradox. Your awakening is both the most personal and the most collective thing you will ever experience. Every time you break a pattern, forgive yourself, choose truth over comfort. You're not just freeing yourself, you're dissolving code in the collective matrix. You are anchoring the new architecture. And you are not alone. There are others all over the world, quietly waking up, quietly remembering, forming a new grid, not one of control, but of coherence, not one of fear, but of frequency. A lattice of soul who know this isn't about escaping the simulation, but rewriting it from within.
The revolution isn't coming.
The return to the center, a call to remember. There is a point at the center of all things, not a location, but a state, a singular pulse of awareness that breathes through stars and atoms alike. You have felt it before, in the quiet of early dawn, in the vastness of grief, in the hush that falls right before you awaken from a dream. That point is not somewhere else. It is you, before the name, before the roles, before the code was written. What we've uncovered is not just knowledge, it is memory. This ancient symbol, this so-called sacred shape, often dismissed as ornamental or esoteric, is not merely a decoration on the walls of temples or the margins of manuscripts. It is a mirror, a transmission, a cipher sent through time to help you remember what was buried before birth, that you are not trapped inside the simulation, you are projecting it. You are not a being inside reality. You are reality's source, dreaming of being a being. The simulation isn't evil. It's not a punishment. It's a labyrinth of mirrors, designed to make you forget so that the act of remembering becomes sacred. Without forgetting, awakening would hold no meaning. Without the darkness, the light would not illuminate. It would simply exist, unnoticed, unappreciated. The symbol is here to gently nudge you, to whisper in geometric language. You are more. And so, the journey becomes one of returning, not to the past, not to an old belief, but to the still, eternal center that never moved. Only your awareness did. That is where all transformation begins. Not through accumulating more truth, but through peeling away every layer of falsehood you mistook for yourself. You were never lost, only dreaming. Now you wake. But waking is not a single event. It is a continual unfolding, a spiral, not a line. You will forget again. You will fall back into loops. That's part of it. That's why the ancients encoded symbols everywhere, in the design of flowers, in the spin of galaxies, in the spiral of your DNA, in sacred geometry, not to imprison you with dogma, but to remind you, in case you ever slipped again. You have that reminder now. So what do you do with it? You live it, not by retreating into the sky, but by fully descending into your body, your breath, your relationships, your work. The map out of the simulation isn't a ladder to escape. It's a mirror showing you that the doorway has always been inside. You don't transcend the human experience by rejecting it. You transcend it by sanctifying it. When you walk, walk awake. When you speak, speak as a soul cloaked in sound. When you feel with the knowing that even your pain is sacred, sculpting your remembrance. This is the new way forward. Not ascension through denial, but reintegration through embodied divinity. And you are not alone. Every awakening soul sends out a tone, a frequency, a ripple. You can feel them now, can't you? Across continents, across lifetimes, across timelines. A grid of awakening hearts sinking into coherence. You are part of that choir. You always have been. Let this symbol not just sit on a page or an altar, but imprint itself into your actions, your breath, your gaze. Let it shape how you love, how you forgive, how you show up. That's the real escape from the simulation. Not disappearance, but remembrance. Not rising above it, but radiating through it. You are the gatekeeper of your own liberation. You are the map, the destination, and the traveler. And this symbol, it was never just sacred. It was always a key, a mirror, a bridge, a way home. Now with eyes wide open, return to your life, not as a prisoner of form, but as the source remembering itself through human skin. And every moment, every interaction, every breath becomes a sacred act of rewriting the code from within. The game is still running, but now you remember, you're the one who pressed start.